Welcome to Coffee with Danny and V. I'm V. This is Danny. Today we're going to be talking about one of the menopause symptoms that kind of takes women by surprise, and that's brain fog. What it is, what causes it, and what you can do to help it. So we've had lots of instances of brain fog on this show.
I'm like, totally have my train of thought. I'm on a mission with what I'm going to say, and it disappears.
Exactly. You're on a roll. And it's not just, what you're saying and it goes out of your head. Brain fog is a couple of other things too. So, when you walk into a room and you forget why you went there all the time.
All the time.
That's brain fog. Just feeling like you can't find the right word or the right phrase can be a sign of brain fog, and something that happens with brain fog. See? Brain fog. And also losing your train of thought when you're giving a presentation or under a high stress environment is brain fog. And really just feeling like you are mentally sluggish and not with it, and like you're kind of battling through a fog in your brain. I mean, it's aptly named, right? It's named for what it feels like.
Yeah.
So that's what brain fog is. And if you're over 35 and you're experiencing this, you're not crazy. You don't have early onset dementia, most likely, right? Statistically, you're probably fine. You're not losing your mind. And what I hear from women is that that's what they feel like. And I definitely know that that's how I feel when it happens to me. Now, I've found some things that I do that help mitigate it or keep it at bay, or some days I'm totally fine and don't have any episodes of it at all. But I think for a lot of women, that's exactly what it feels like, right? You're losing your mind.
Yeah.
And how the hell are you going to give your presentation at work tomorrow when you can't even remember why you were in the kitchen 5 minutes ago?
Yeah. You start feeling, it definitely leads to these feelings of being incompetent in a lot of different ways. It makes you feel almost even stupid sometimes. I mean, you just kind of, you feel like your mental capacity isn't there, which is why a lot of women think that they've got early onset dementia when it starts happening. And it's actually a common symptom of menopause and perimenopause.
Yeah.
And
the reason it happens, we don't know exactly why. But again, there's just such a dearth of study around what's going on in women's bodies at this time of their lives that there's a lot of research that needs to be done. But the supposition is that when your estrogen starts to decline, it affects your mental state. And here's the thing. It's because it's new and different that your body seems to have this terrible reaction, and it seems so overwhelming. It's kind of like your hot flash, right? The first time you have a hot flash, you're like, what is this? And why is it happening? And oh my God, I'm not that old, right?
Right.
And I think we don't realize that brain fog is very similar to having your first hot flash. It's because your estrogen's declining. It's because your body doesn't know how to react. There's this really great study out there about women who experience brain fog. And it suggests very highly that as a woman goes through menopause and her estrogen continues to decline, that these episodes of brain fog still continue to happen, but she's found ways to, deal with it, to process it. It doesn't catch her out of left field the way it does when she first starts experiencing them. So there is hope. And it's not to say that you're always going to feel like you just can't get your shit together, right? Because that's how I feel a lot of days when brain fog is sort of creeping up on me. You're not going to feel like that forever, even though episodes of brain fog will continue to happen as your estrogen declines. That's just a fact of life. But it doesn't mean you're going crazy. I promise.
So what are some of the things that you do to combat your brain?
Well, you're going to love this because you're always harping on it. Eat correctly. Eat the right stuff, right? So eat foods that are healthy fats, are good for your brain. Making sure that the rest of your body is performing at top notch will help your brain perform at top notch. So make sure you eat fiber.
And they say that, your gut is your second brain, right?
Yes.
And the reason they say that is because it's constantly sending receptors up to your brain. It's communicating with your brain constantly. So that would make sense why food and your nutrition state really affects your brain activity.
Right. And your microbiome too. And I'll get into that in just a second. But if you can eat the right fatty foods for brain health, and if you can make sure that when you're eating these foods, that you're eating them in conjunction with the other things you need. So don't eat just avocado, right? Because an avocado has some fiber, but not enough fiber to help push through the nutrients in your intestinal system. And there's a whole video that we cut on nutrition and poop that you should absolutely go watch if you have not watched it already, because it will kind of explain that connection for you a little bit better. But probiotics are absolutely a thing. What is going on in your microflora, in your microbiome, definitely impacts the signals that get sent from your gut to your brain and back again, right? They need to communicate with each other. And so if you're cutting off your gut-brain axis, then of course you're going to have some episodes of brain fog. And the other thing you can eat is estrogen-like plants, right? Phytoestrogens. Because phytoestrogens will help maintain that estrogenic effect in your body, and your body will be able to use those like estrogens so that your estrogen systems that are dependent on estrogen don't feel like they're completely depleted, right? And they have to parse out where the estrogen is going to go.
I think it's important to realize too, because there's a lot of miscommunication out there about phytoestrogens because it has the word estrogen. People are afraid of it. And phytoestrogens, things like soy, those kinds of things, the way that it works is it binds when you need it, right? So it doesn't cause excess estrogen in your system.
Like a supergenic effect.
Right. So it actually binds when you need it and helps supplement when you're having those low periods, and it doesn't throw you into overly high periods, which is why most men hear the word phytoestrogen in soy and they run for the hills, right? But so there's nothing to be afraid of, in most situations. Now there's definitely, again, we talk about this, not every person is the same. You've got some breast cancer situations, different things that they tell you to avoid those types of foods. And but
if your doctor has not told you that you need to shy away from phytoestrogens, then they're probably going to be helpful to maintain your estrogen levels. The other thing, so diet, really, that's probably no shocker. And here's the other big thing that's not a shocker: exercise. Physical exercise helps keep your brain healthy. But the thing that might be a shocker for people is mental exercise. Your brain needs to work out too. So that's the thing that's really helped me. I used to read a lot of books when I was much younger. And when I started having issues with my brain fog right around 40, I didn't realize that's what was going on, of course. There were a lot of things going on in my physical well-being that I didn't realize were due to perimenopause. But when I started realizing this and realized that brain fog was one of the things that was happening to me, I started reading books, physical books again. And there's something about the process that my brain needs to go through. Reading the printed word on a page, not on my cell phone, because that's really distracting and easy to go down, the Pinterest universe and that sort of thing. Engaging my brain in thoughtful activity really helped my brain fog.
Yep. So there is a big thing about that with aging. And there's a lot of big conversations around it. Other things you can do, little games like word searches, things like that. Crossword puzzles.
Looking for patterns is very healthy for your brain. It's what your brain is conditioned to do, is to look for patterns. So any games where you're looking for patterns are really good.
Reading a clock.
Yeah.
An actual clock, not a digital clock,
Right.
but reading a clock is actually proven to be a good mental brain game to keep your brain engaged. There's a big conversation around blue zones. And if you haven't heard about blue zones, I recommend you go look it up. And they're basically areas that have a concentrated amount of people that are living to be centennial age. And so they looked at what was going on in these regions and stuff like that. And there's a big disconnect about most American households and what we do at an older age. One of which is the constant pattern of retirement, in
Right.
which we actually stop engaging our brain once we retire. And that's actually when it becomes so important to, stay engaged and keep your brain engaged. I get that we're tired. I get that we're tired of working and, exhausted. But you have to keep your brain engaged. So you have to be able to find other ways to keep your brain engaged. Other ways to do it would be learning something new.
Right.
And really engaging your brain in that way. Find something that interests you and engage your brain on learning something new.
Yeah. Acquiring a new skill. I think that's why I think a lot of people take up like painting, right? Or gardening.
Golfing.
Because it's something you can do physically, but because people want to stay active, and it's also something that's really good for your brain. But get ahead of it now, because there's nothing that says that you can't acquire a new skill or play some brain games or engage your brain in other interesting ways, looking for patterns, reading narratives, right? Those are all ways to keep your brain active. And there's nothing that says you have to wait until you retire to do those things. In fact, the sooner you start engaging your brain, the healthier it will be for longer.
Well, and that plays with nutrition. It's the same thing. It's all very much in your head. So if you can get on a good pattern of nutrition, right, it's a pattern of repetition, and that becomes the norm for you. It's the same thing with that. Make it the norm so that when you reach those later stages in life and you're having more brain fog, you're engaging your brain more and you're doing those things that you need to help combat that.
Now, there are some things that are definitely signs that you should see your doctor. Right? Because brain fog can be an indicator of other things. Now, statistically speaking, if you're female and you're having estrogen decline, the brain fog is totally normal. But there are some signs you should look out for. First of all, if your brain fog is impacting your ability to function, right? If you're going into a room and, leaving the water on and forgetting to turn it off, or forgetting to turn off your oven, or those kinds of things, then that's something you should probably see your doctor about, just to make sure that there isn't some underlying issue. If you have headaches accompanying your brain fog, you need to see your doctor. And I don't want to freak you out if you have a headache and brain fog at the same time. It's probably you're fine. Don't panic. But it's worth seeing your doctor about. Because there could be an underlying issue that you want to address right away, or your doctor could tell you it's nothing and don't worry, and wouldn't that be a wonderful scenario too?
Well, and that's a great reason to bring up tracking, right? Track your symptoms, track what's going on, track how many times you might be having brain fog with a headache. Is it a one-off situation? Is it something else that's triggering it? You're having brain fog and a headache because you had a glass of wine. What is it? A storm rolls in. I get a headache when the weather pressure changes. So pay attention to those kinds of things, and tracking those things can really help you stay on top of what's going on with your body and whether that's something you need to go see your doctor or not.
Absolutely. One of the other things that you want to look out for is noticing if your brain fog is caused by high stress, because that can be an indicator of something else going on in your body. So if you notice that you're totally fine, but when you get into a high stress situation, your brain fog really kicks in, that's a good sign you should talk to your doctor, just to rule out any underlying issues, and really just to take control of your stress levels, because high stress isn't good for anybody, brain fog or no. That's why we all look forward to retiring so much.
To reduce that stress. But stress is not good for you in so many different ways.
So if you're experiencing brain fog, It's totally normal, especially if you're 35 or older. Don't panic. If you do have some other symptoms that are coming with your brain fog, definitely talk to your doctor. But know that there are things you can do to help mitigate your brain fog, to take control of it, and to make sure that your brain is as healthy as it can be for as long as it can be. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.